13 house guests, 5 invaders, and 1 podcast. This is Isolated Invasion, and I'm Pooty, also known as Big Brother Delta. Today we're joined by Isolated's main host, Nofo, also known as Big Brother Alpha, and 2 alumni from Isolated Splintered, Levita and Tim. Alright, so we've just gone over the 13 new players, and now we're going to talk about our 5 invaders, returning players from Stranded, who will be entering the game after the new players have gotten to know each other as part of our invasion twist. So our 5 invaders, I guess we'll reveal them one at a time. Let's start with, we'll go alphabetically. I don't know that I'm going to be disappointed with any of the invader boots just because like they've already had their time to shine. So, I feel like anything else we get is just, as we would say in New Orleans, lagniappe, just a little bit extra. So, let's go ahead and move on to Flick. Flick, obviously someone we're super excited about seeing play after he came back. Most recently for Australian Stranded and did very well there. Was just about to make the merge and then got cut disappointingly. And I think, that's kind of a recurring theme with a lot of our returning players, with the exception of one who we'll talk about. But I think Flick is another one of those people that we're not sure how they'll do, but we really hope that they get their chance to kind of stir things up because that's what they're really good at,
I think he's a very off-putting person, and I could see him irritating the rest of the cast.
I don't know. I think Flick's very good, and I think every time he's been cut, it's because he's a really good player. That's what I think.
He very heavily relies on shticks. As Jane, he really was very strange and very bizarre with the way he acted. Flick was very. I just don't know about him.
He's over the top. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he's very over the top. I don't know if this cat get along with him.
He comes in the old school of orgy games where shticks were very prominent, and he's certainly no wallflower in the drama department. I think I'm kind of hoping, these invaders kind of bring out a lot of personality in the house guests. Usually when you mix, that's what ends up happening. Like the new players kind of get a sense of how to feel and how to play the game. So that's really what I'm hoping, is that they kind of bring some of these people out of their shell.
Yeah. Definitely see that shtick observation as well, where it feels like he's more playing a character than they are, being themselves or being a genuine player in the game. And I think a lot of the newbies we have are going to be playing as their genuine selves socially. So it'll be interesting to see how they react to somebody like Flick.
What were you going to say, Nate?
Yeah, generally that point. I think with Flick, there's going to be obviously the question of, are the newbies going to just not be able to be on the same page as them? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, how well do I think? I don't know if I can do predictions for the invaders. It's going to be such a crapshoot, honestly.
Yeah, Flick's the person who I have the hardest time integrating with seeing how they integrate with the newbies.
Well, judging by Stranded, since every single time he's played, he's been like right before the merge boot. Maybe that's what he'll do, like right before jury. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see it.
All right, well, let's talk about another player who is famous for being an early merge boot. Gary is next. Gary's someone who I was very high on in Stranded. Like when he first played, he was a standout new player amongst veterans. This will be his time on the opposite end of that spectrum, where he'll be a returning player playing against new people. Gary's someone who I don't know what to expect from Gary, because he's only played one time for Stranded. He did not do well, really. I mean, he was interesting and entertaining, but I don't know how good of a player he is. I don't have a great read on Gary. I just know he's a fun personality and obviously a respected member of our community. So we finally are getting him back in some capacity.
Yeah.
I think what's really going to help him is he helped us host the last 2 seasons. And I think that should help him a lot, as far as knowing what to expect. And
yeah, because he was a huge Flick fan in Australian Stranded. So, Gary is big on like personality. He loves the big personalities. I think he's going to get along with a lot of the other invaders.
Yeah, Gary is the one person who I can't see getting out in the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see him as the first invader boot either. I've never seen Gary play. I've never played with Gary. I've only talked to Gary in the server and privately. So I'm really excited to see what his play style is like and how he plays. I was his winner pick in Isolated, so I know he's got good taste.
This is the thing about Gary. He's got like Man, you had to say that right before I'm going to say this. He's got like the wrong opinion about a lot of things. Not about his taste on you, but in general, like he has terrible reads, let me put it that way, on like situations. So, that's part of what caught him up in Stranded. He had a really bad read of the situation. I know like Joaquin's lurking. Maybe he can text something about that because he played with them obviously in Turks and Caicos. I don't know. I don't. Gary's not. He's like very impulsive when he plays. He's not someone who I think will be like under the radar. He's gonna have interesting reads that we may not agree with. Let's put it that way.
I feel like, from what I know of Gary personally, I think he is somebody who benefits a lot more from having full information and like seeing what are the right moves for other people. But in a game, I don't know that he'll be able to see it for himself.
Yeah, what Kate said, he gave him bad vibe and voted for him at the merge, so he went for him immediately. And he's played a lot of Discords and has dominated them, so who knows what that means.
Yeah, I don't know. Gary's he's a contrarian where, he loves taking the opposite stance in an argument. So, I don't know, does that mean like he generally gravitates towards the outsiders? Like you said, Levita, I think we don't know what to expect from Gary, really, because we haven't seen too much of him in our type of games.
Yeah, Gary has the tools that it takes to succeed, so it's just knowing if Gary can succeed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, technically, a lot of these other people have played Stranded more than him, but he's lurked a hell of a lot, and he has a lot of recent experience both playing orgs and lurking, so maybe that gives him the edge. I don't know. I think, like you said, he might be a swing vote. We're going to talk about why, but I think that this Invaders, you can't really call it a tribe, the Invaders themselves are going to be split because two of them are very close, so that doesn't leave much room for everyone else. So let's go ahead and break into that. Up next, we have Michelle, our most recent winner of Stranded, newbie winner of Stranded, coming off her win in Gorilla Islands. Of course, she was supposed to be in Stranded for Victory, but got very sick, possibly coronavirus, but definitely some kind of respiratory issue right before, so had to drop out. So we're finally getting to see her again here. And Michelle is someone who's like, she's awesome to see play. And I'm really excited to see her with some of the new players.
Michelle is the most recent.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if she's going to be... It's going to be hard to say who's the target in the Invaders group for that first boot. That's going to be an exciting first boot.
She's the winner I'm rooting for the most. Or the Invader I'm rooting for the most. I just really like her, and I hope she gets a real shot here.
Well, we know she can. She can win. We'll see. I think the best thing about Michelle's game is that she's really good at reading the situations going on, reading the room, and knowing where she should move and who's with who and who's the target, that kind of thing. That's really what helped her in Stranded. So, this is only her second season, but I think she's really good.
And I think she feels like she has a little bit to prove, even as a winner. I don't know that she loved her reception as much. I don't know, like her application kind of made it sound like she wants to be a little bit bigger than she was before. So that could be entertaining.
Playing for the memories more than the accolades, I guess. Well, it's going to be hard to talk about Michelle without talking about the next person. So let's just go ahead and reveal that the final Invader is Reem, her good friend and buddy. Of course, Reem was like one of those once-in-a-lifetime casting characters and finds from Stranded. So, of course, she's going to be a big part of this, no matter what happens. It'd be hard to envision her going out early, but certainly like the Invader twist would be the way it would happen.
Yeah, at the same time, I could see her being the very first person out.
Yeah, totally.
It would be very unfortunate.
If I'm an Invader, I think this is a coach's season. I don't want two of the coaches working together.
Yeah, if I were an Invader, I would want Reem out over Michelle too first.
Well,
anyway,
and we're assuming that Michelle and Reem are going to be put up immediately from the Invaders because they're the obvious pair. No one else has like a really obvious connection, but those two are really good friends, and they also played their season together and continue to be good friends. So I can't imagine them not being targeted. The only thing would be like if one of them won HOH. So I can't imagine like Gary winning and putting up one of Michelle and Reem. Like I feel like if you're going to make the shot, you got to take it at both of them.
And that's what I see Blick doing with no consequence.
Yeah, it's going to go anyway. It's going to be impossible to predict how this will end up. But we do know that those two are an obvious pair. So that's going to play into it somehow. Either one of them wins and, they nominate one of the other three, or one of the three wins and nominates those two. I mean, that's how it would shock me if it was like mixed. Because I don't even think there would be a point in nominating one of each, like, Michelle and Flick. Like, there's no point in that because the other three aren't a unified group,
Yeah, except if one of them makes a bad move very early. That would have to be what happens.
Yeah. So you guys think that if it's Michelle and Reem up, you think Reem gets the boot? But like newbies are voting on this, so does that play a factor? Because Reem is pretty aggressive in how she talks to people and bonds with people.
I think Michelle would do a better job at making the newbies feel comfortable about keeping her in the game. If it's between the two of them, I think Reem could maybe intimidate them.
You know, I hadn't thought about it until I just said that, but having those two up on the block and basically fighting against one another will be super interesting. Especially to start
that's what
out.
I hope what happens.
Yeah, especially to start out a season. Part of me was dreading that, but that might be like the ideal.
Yeah, plus I can imagine the newbies will know who they are. So Michelle has the stigma of winner on her name, while Reem has the stigma of 10th. Just as much.
True. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Does Gary want to work more with Michelle or Reem? You know, it's gonna come down to who knows who.
Yeah, and Gary as the person who is the most knowledgeable of the entirety of the cast.
Right. Man, it's gonna be interesting. I think that twist is so cool. I can't wait to see how that happens.
Yeah, especially because at the same time, we've got these invaders in here, and I don't really think any of us want to see just Michelle and Reem like steamrolling through the cast to the end.
Right.
At least that's not the story I'm looking for from this season.
Right.
So getting one of them out right away, I think, would be the better way to start the season.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not to, set them up for failure, but at the same time, I'm ready for it to kick the season off in an exciting way.
So the new players won't have much time to get to know, I think they only have an hour before they have to vote one of them out. Is that right, Nofo?
Yes, I think that's what we're going to go with.
I don't know if social game plays a huge factor, or if people are just like, that person won, she's gone,
Yeah, that's where I think Reem has the advantage, because I think Reem, the element of her that may intimidate people, is also very effective in the first 20 seconds.
Right.
That's very fair. Yeah, that's a very good point, with it being such a short period.
But is that going to be off-putting to people?
To who?
To the new players.
That she won?
No, I meant Reem's arrogance.
Personality?
Yeah, Reem's, what would you say, aggressive personality. I think that's going to be off-putting to the new players. And if I was them meeting her for the first time, she would probably be the one I would want to take out.
Well, I mean, I think you're underestimating how likable she is, because that's part of why she's so effective. Like, sure, she has balls, but to back that up, she has loyal people for, playing for her because she's very likable.
I think what'll be interesting is for them, if they're both on the block, the way they're going to be interacting with these newbies who have an hour to decide while they're both, up for elimination in that vulnerable position. I think they might change how they approach these new players a little bit, because they're both going to be on the line. Like, I think Reem does very, very well when she's not being directly targeted as much. Having the block, having that eviction type of block mentality where only two people are the choice, I think that could hurt her more when you're just trying to decide between her and one other person.
Yeah, true. Is there anything else we can say about the invaders of the twist overall?
I don't expect an invader to win.
I don't want an invader to win. Personal preference. But I think I'm glad they're in there.
I think the key to this will be highlighting the invaders and putting them a little bit on a pedestal to set up like a us versus them with the rest of the cast. Of course, we want to mix, but I think a little bit of the back and forth would also be cool.
Reem, dominant fan favorite, is going full promos on all of them.
I was even thinking I'll just list them as an invader the whole season, What do we think about that?
Just a different colored avatar as well.
Yeah, go all in. I mean, it's the theme of the season, right? I don't know. For me, this is not about, this is more about the mix to me. I want to see how new players, that's the whole theme. We're highlighting invaders. Otherwise we would have just put them in as Rachel or, one of the Big Brother people. We want them to kind of stand out, I think.
Like Reem as Rachel.
Right.
That's what I was just thinking. Reem would be Rachel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, since they're going to be their stranded reps, let's go all in on it. Let's see what happens when they have these obvious targets and they're different from everyone. Yeah, it'll be, I think it's going to be good though. This is a good group. And I like the number of people, I think it's a good divide.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I think what I could see happening is, invaders getting targeted pretty quickly, but one of them making it through pretty far. I don't see more than one of them making it too far. I think they'll be targeted pretty straight up, but I think once 4 of them are gone, that last one will cockroach their way through a little bit longer.
Well, it depends.
Yeah,
Depends on challenges, because they could beast challenges easily,
Yeah, but I'm trying to think how many of the late game challenges you can predictably win.
Right.
Which I don't want to say that with Levita in the room.
At least 50% of them.
You probably have the exact percentage.
Yeah.
Actually, I probably have it as well.
I think the invaders are going to do, I think Levita's right. I think most of the invaders are going to get picked off fairly quickly. And I could see someone like Gary just sliding through. Because I think he's the one that is probably the most inoffensive or, non-threatening.
Yeah, let's go with non-threatening. I don't know if we want to say inoffensive for Gary.
Well, I just mean like he's not someone who's completely over the top like Flick.
Right.
I think for me it goes maybe Reem, Flick, Michelle, and Gary. I really don't think Michelle is as threatening as you guys think she will be.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, the threatening thing would be if she makes it out of that invader twist, because she's very good at under the radar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think the way she played Curl probably isn't as effective in Big Brother.
I think it'd be more effective in Big Brother, honestly.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with Pooty there.
I don't know. I think there were times where people would have taken her out if they want a random HOH.
Well, maybe with the invader title, yeah. But we'll see. I don't know. She's really good about reading a situation and going under the radar when she needs to. I would say this. We didn't give her a shot in hell at making the final 3 because we thought she would definitely win, and she was able to convince those guys that she should be in the final 3,
Yeah, I think Michelle is very good at deflecting attention off of herself and onto somebody else. And that's not necessarily like people say that's going under the radar, but I think it's more just that manipulation of information and making it seem like somebody else is to blame and not her.
Yeah,
even though she has just as much of a part in it. I think her downfall could actually come if she does win an HOH. I think I don't know how Michelle would handle having that direct power because that's something we didn't see really in like Stranded.
That is a very interesting point and something I wasn't thinking of. That is something that Reem could really thrive with here, whereas Michelle might not be able to. Yeah, you know what? If Reem was Alias here, I could see Reem taking this. And I think it's going to be a lot harder for her being open ID.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the point of the twist is like, let's not make it easy on the returning people.
Yeah, not like us fuckers.
yeah, y'all had it so easy. You definitely dominated.
Yep, and no one won all the confidence.
Right.
I'm also really interested to see now that we've talked about everybody how the newbies try to use the invaders, because if they're smart, they should also be trying to get information from them about the game, about how you play, about how it works, and all that stuff. And that's something I couldn't do in Isolated 4 because I didn't know who was an alum and who wasn't. And here it's going to be very, very obvious. So whether or not they do take on that kind of coaching role or whether the newbies try to put that role on them, I think will be very interesting too.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that will just about cover our Invader podcast. I look forward to it. I hope some of these guys they've all gotten a shot, but I hope some of them get another chance to shine here because it would be fun. At the same time, I'm hoping that the newbies are really good too. Hopefully we can get a good mix.
Yeah, I'd love to see a newbie win.
Yeah, I'm really excited for about I think 8 or 9 of these newbies if they become big characters.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for me. We look forward to the season. We're about 4 days out. Look forward to seeing you guys there. Bye.
Oh, Danny, one of my coworkers got a really cute dog whose name is also Piper, and now it's like there's a lot of confusion going on.
Did you tell her there's only room for one Piper in your life?
Yeah.
I would, except this Piper is a very small dog, so I think they could probably claim that both could fit.
Oh, that's true. Big Piper, little Piper.
I'm not normally an advocate of dogfighting. No.
But you'll make an exception just this once.
Yeah, there can only be one. What the hell is Rachel? What did she apply as? Shayna?
Oh, yeah. I just looked at the most recent interview archive, and that was it.
She didn't mention the strip club in this app.
No, it was only in the interview.
But we're definitely mentioning it.
Absolutely. Is this your first ever strip club manager?
I would think. I mean, I have my questions about Trav, but...
This is actually just secretly Rockstar applying to play this game.
If they had put strip club manager in their application, I would have thought it was a troll, to be fair.
That's probably what they thought.
What, you don't believe the mom of 5 is a strip club manager?
Mama's
That's
gotta
exactly
eat.
why I believe she's a strip club manager.
True, and she's the manager.
What the fuck is JC's name? I forget. Oh yeah.
Oh, he's a fantastic.
Yeah. It's like starts
With
with
the
like
PH.
Mr. or something. Rise, Mr. Fanta.
Mhm.
I've just been calling him Fan.
Also, I love that the dude that Nofo called the little shit is like the one who actually works for Big Brother.
It's Rise, Mr. Fantastic, Pooty.
He turned out to be pretty good, considering.
No, he's a great cat.
I mean,
You need
his
someone
app,
like that.
his app sucked, but I figured with his age and
Mhm.
background, he would have been good.
How old is he?
He's 33.
He's very
33.
methodical.
If you had told me he was 20, I would have believed you.
I know.
My neighborhood sex shop is opening up on June 1st.
Essential
Gonna
business.
totally deck out the crib.
Yeah, now that you're cohabitating.
Yeah, I know, right?
Now your sex swing can be hanging in the living room and no one will judge you
have to
for
break
it.
it out, yeah.
Their logo is just the only way I can. I'll have to send it to you later. But like the only way I can describe it is it's an infinite 69.
That sounds good.
It's just like 69 and people 69ing in like a circle, continuous circle. Like
33 days, 13 house guests, 5 invaders, and 1 podcast. This is Isolated Invasion, and I'm Pooty, also known as Big Brother Delta. Today we're joined by Isolated's main host, Nofo, also known as Big Brother Alpha. We are also joined by the winner of Isolated Splintered, Levita, who's playing Big Brother Beta. We're also joined by the winner of Off-Stranded, Joaquin, who is playing Big Brother Gamma.
Woody, it's an honor to be on the show.
And finally, 2-time All-Star from the Turks and Caicos, Danny, who is playing Big Brother Zeta.
Hello, friends.
Hello.
Nofo could be joining us later, but he says he's currently writing the warning and making it scathing.
Perfect.
Very good.
For those not unaware, we just had a heated debate over whether to keep Monet in the game or remove her over issues of activity level. Nofo is going to play the role of a bitch and keep her in the game. No, I think we settled on he's writing a warning. I disagree. I think, just pull her ass, but I've been outvoted.
At the very least, out no food.
All right. So we have a lot to talk about. We're 6 days in, but before we get into that, we had some last minute drops, replacements, and switcheroos in casting. So we need to introduce some of the cast. Let's go ahead and begin by talking about our replacement, who's the current HOH right now, JC, who's played by Rise, Mr. Fantastic. He is 33 years old. He's a male, and he's worked in entertainment on shows such as Big Brother and other reality shows and television shows. I think he was a much needed maturity to the cast, certainly better than Mert the Goose, but he was a replacement, so it was kind of a risk. I think he's paid off so far. What do you guys think about how he's doing in the game?
I think JC's come in great. I mean, it's a huge uphill battle to come in literally a day into everything. And he couldn't really save his ranking at that point in the HOH challenge, but he came in with about an hour and a half and really started putting in the work and managed to avoid getting nominated altogether and then winning the next HOH, continuing to really make more inroads than some of the cast members who've been around the entire time.
Yeah, I think he's played this really smartly, especially not nominating an invader, which would have been the obvious choice. And then I think, that would have doomed the invader. I think he's used this as a chance to kind of get in good with some of the invaders. And I think that's really smart for him as an outsider himself. He's kind of an invader coming in after the new players have all bonded. So I think for him, keeping in as many big targets as possible is probably smart. He's gone after some of the lesser actives, and that did not pay off because Brett beasted that counting competition.
Hashtag Harvard Business.
Yeah. I gotta say, I was impressed with Brett. We'll get into Brett, but I think JC has done very well. I think he's proven that he's got some strategic smarts, and I think he's a little bit more interesting than what he led on in his application. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I find that like replacements are either complete busts or fantastic. There's no real in between, and he's leaning on towards the good end of that because it basically comes down to some sort of self-awareness. Like you either realize you gotta put in the work, or you start playing as if you were there on day one. And so he has that, so it's all there. like JC's delivering entertainment wise. I don't know about strategic chops because he was like I think he had a hard time losing this HOH. Like if he had nominated either Brett and Monet or two Invaders, like nobody would have blamed him either way. But he was like really tempted to put up one of each, Brett and Michelle, for a really long time, which is like, then you just alienate everyone, which worries me on like will he make the right decision in a long-term basis? But I mean, that would deliver entertainment wise, so I'm like cool with it. But
yeah, I think he is kind of playing both sides though, successfully, shockingly, even though he's kind of, I mean, his nominations would make you think like he's made his choice. He wants to align with the Invaders, but I don't know if necessarily everyone believes that. What do you think?
Yeah, and he has talked to both Haley and Scotty about how they need to still come up with a group that doesn't have Invaders in it because he doesn't trust them long term.
Right. Well, let's circle back to JC when we talk about this week's event. But right now, let's talk about she wasn't really a replacement, but she was cast after we had finalized in the earlier podcast. We have Rachel, who's played by Shayna8866, who is 34 years old. She's a mother of 5. And most interestingly, she's a manager at a strip club. Certainly a first for me. She says, I'm an absolute super fan who has been dying to play Big Brother for almost 20 years. I'm looking to have fun, be social, and compete to the fullest. I'm a woodworker, mother of 5. I was a teen mom. I'm afraid of moose and hate ketchup. What is the plural of moose?
Moose.
Moosei? Mises? No. So that's Rachel. I think she's one of the most fascinating casting choices. I don't know if she's necessarily delivering just yet. I'd like to see her do a little bit more, but certainly the conversation has been lively.
People love her though. Like she hasn't like delivered any like big moments yet. I don't think like you need to necessarily, but by and large, she is like one of the most social newbies so far.
I think I would actually put her in the JC category where, they're both a little bit older than a lot of the cast, and they're both more social and not necessarily getting their hands dirty, but certainly not like fading into the background, which I think is important.
She's got a ton of connections. I mean, she's in 2 like kind of different groups of people. Like people don't really know where she's at, and she's on everybody's good side right now, which is a good spot early. We'll see how she continues to navigate that because it gets trickier as it goes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let's talk a little bit about the final replacement, which Alex dropped out before the game started, and so we replaced him with another previous winner coming out of Stranded for Victory, Courtney. Courtney is of course 43 years old, I believe. She's played Stranded for a very long time. She was in the third season of Stranded, and she won the first All-Star season. I think Courtney was a game-changing replacement for the Invaders. I think had Alex been in there, we would have seen a very different outcome of that early game.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually Gary probably would not have gone home. It's just been super interesting. I think let's just talk about that early game with the Invaders, because I think a majority of the early days in the game, that was where the meat and potatoes were. There's so many layers of playing, and I think what we can take away is that I think Reem and Michelle really misplayed that early stage of the game, and I think the experience behind Flick, Courtney, and Gary really showed just how ahead they were strategically from those two.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Reem win HOH, and initially she nominated Flick and Courtney, which was a little bit of a head scratcher. She had kind of made inroads with Courtney and Gary very closely, but then she had promised them, and didn't she promise Flick too, like to kind of work with them?
She promised literally everybody on that tribe that she was going to like go far with them, and then proceeded to try to ball out in challenges.
She specifically told Flick she would not nominate him if she won HOH.
Oof.
Yes. So
yeah, I think,
kind of deserved a little bit of the wrath she got.
Yeah, I think Reem, I mean, somebody described it as like when Stephanie LaGrossa came back after playing her first season of Survivor and completely tanked her likability. I don't think Reem is unlikable here. I think she's not playing this well, and it's coming across. I think she's got a little bit of a big head after being able to quote unquote missed the cast of Coral Islands, that she was going to be able to do that again. And I think she also watched a little bit of Cataly's game and decided that was how she could play. Unfortunately, I think she missed the part where Cataly was incredibly nuanced and had a lot of experience under her belt.
Reem is much more of a bulldozer.
Yes. I think a more apt comparison would be like to Russell from from Stranded for Victory. I think she's convinced that she has everyone misted. Unfortunately, I think she's partially right. I think she's convinced everyone that she was very close to them, and then she proceeded to tank that immediately by showing her cards and nominating all three of the people outside of her close pairing with Michelle. Ideally, in Big Brother, you want to nominate as little people as possible, and your target goes home. Here, she nominated all of her options outside of Michelle and showed her cards that she's not close to any of them, really.
And her target stayed.
Yes. Yeah. The worst part of all. So really, I don't think it could have gone worse as an HOH for her. I mean, I can't think of a worse scenario.
I mean, her one saving grace is that, like, because of the fight with Flick, people aren't going to... She was immediately targeted. And she's also, like, a pretty likable person. So she's not getting targeted right off the bat here. But I agree. It's hard for me to, like, see people trusting her really deep into the game.
Yeah. I think the most concerning part is that she believes it was a really good play and that she's been playing excellently so far. And that is far from the case.
Definitely.
I think you're right, Joaquin. I think her saving grace is going to be her likability. I see her getting into trouble again, though, with that. I think already she's overextended her reach. It's a little bit easier now because she's in the position of just trying to survive, being a huge target. But I think she's going to overdo it again. And I think she's in that early mindset that she was the first few days as an invader. I think she's going to get in too many groups again and going to get busted, She already
has a few different new players ranking her pretty high in their trust list or in their ally list. But I think Winston is one of them, surprisingly enough. Haley is one of them. JC might be. So she's doing a great job of getting those social connections and getting back in. But I definitely agree that she's not what she should do now that she's made those connections is do exactly what Courtney's been telling her and lie low. And she's not going to do that. She's going to end up overplaying her hand again for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think personally, I think Courtney's playing this the best so far.
Completely agree.
I think actually Courtney kind of schooled Reem and Michelle by heart fucking them into playing the veto on her. I think that was like a masterclass because, she even said look, I'm not quitting. I'm just going to make them think I'm quitting, and she's still using that strategy effectively. And so I think, she really outplayed them there. And I think she's continuing to do that. It's interesting. I don't think even if say Courtney and Michelle were on the block, I think Michelle's fucked. And I think, I don't know. I think Reem is playing a little bit better than Michelle because she's playing a little bit more aggressively. And I think that she needs to a degree. But I think they could both take a page out of Courtney's book of how to play under the radar.
Courtney's biggest strength that I've seen is her ability to adapt to the person she's talking to. I mean, it's just she's got a confessional about her reads on people and how to do that. But you see it in what she says to people. She'll start off from the same conversation point and then lead it into different directions depending on how she thinks they'll respond. And she does a fantastic job of it.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe Courtney goes early. But from my perspective right now, I think she's playing the best game in terms of Big Brother, where she's under the radar, but she's still talking to everyone and in the conversation without controlling the conversation. And I think Reem is more set on controlling the conversation.
Yeah, Reem's already planning her time when she's going to backstab Courtney. She's got her goodbye message written.
I would also like to add in just with Courtney that I think Courtney, just out of the invaders in general, has been the most, I don't want to say the most strategic because it's not necessarily just strategy, but I just think that she's put herself in the best position where you come in with Flick and Reem angry at each other. Everyone's talking about how Michelle and Reem are best friends. And yeah, they're lumping in Courtney as a potential ally for Michelle and Reem, but they're not really her threat level in that group isn't nearly what Michelle and Reem are getting because they're just and Courtney is with them. So I think that she also has the best ability to be able to kind of merge back in with the other house guests, whereas the other invaders are always going to stand out.
Yeah, no, totally. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, the original house guests vote out Gary over Flick. Fortunately for us, because Flick is a tornado of drama, but unfortunately for Gary, who I would have liked to see go far here, I think it's probably the right move for the house guests. I think Gary played this a little too under the radar. He kind of came out swinging right at the end, a little too late. He should have come out at the top of the hour with that. But I think he was a little more blindsided by this than Flick was. Flick had a little bit more time to prepare his strategy going in, whereas Gary found out he was going to be on the block an hour or so before this happened, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for Gary because he did really play it well, I think. He was the one, I mean, Courtney leaned into Reem and Michelle well, which I guess you could say that was the optimal strategy. But like if he made it into the house, he was in best with all of the groups. Like he was the only one that was remotely in good with Flick. And he was not nominated at first and was in good with Reem and Michelle. And it took like a bad move for him to go home. I think an objectively bad move. So I do kind of feel for him there.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, you know, who would have predicted that after Michelle won the veto, she would take off Courtney and put up Gary? Like it's almost nonsensical to the point where you would not have predicted it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely not expecting it based on the conversations he'd been having. It definitely threw him. He wasn't prepared going in, and he was up against Flick. Like, it did not work in his favor off the get-go. There's probably more he could have tried to do in that time, but ultimately, I don't know how much it would have mattered.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, if we had said this when Flick was originally nominated and pissed off, that is a great strategy when talking to the new players. And you have like a very short time frame. So we kind of knew Flick would have the edge there. That being said, like I think had a pissed off Courtney been up against Flick, I think Courtney might have been able to pull it off.
Definitely possible. I would never have put it out in the question for either Courtney or Gary. If Gary had maybe had more time to plan for it, like Courtney would have had. But yeah, off the bat, once Flick hit the ground running with that public post, Gary needed to follow it up with something, and when he didn't, that kind of threw everything in the wrong direction for him.
So Gary ends up going home. The invaders enter the house. Is this when JC wins HOH?
Yeah, JC won it, the second HOH.
Yeah, Scotty had won the first HOH, but Bailey self-evicted. We had not covered that yet.
Okay. Yeah, so Scotty ends up winning the first happened. HOH. I think Scotty, there's a couple of notable new players that were making good ground before the invaders came in. Scotty is certainly at the top of that list and at the top of the rankings next to Annie. Scotty and Annie did a really good job of making a lot of inroads with all of the new players. I think that this type of game setup where you have a rival group come in, I think it benefits you to be one of the stronger members of the group. You know, like Annie and Scotty maybe in a normal season would stick out as targets. Whereas here, I think, you know, you kind of want your strong group leader to go up against the other rival group, you know.
I agree with that. Yeah, it gives them a little better place to hide. Gives you some better consensus targets too.
I don't even know if it's the word hide is right. I think the sole fact that there are 4 people coming in who have played a similar game before, having an other makes those people who are strong, like you want those people around to win, so that if you're going to go with this quote unquote idea that the house wants to stay newbie strong against the invaders, like you want those strong people there to help you take them out.
Mm-hmm.
They become your figurehead. Those are the newbies that are going to take out the invaders. And then once they're gone, then you take them out. So I think that totally allowed Scotty specifically to kind of slide back into the background after, you know, winning both the HOH and the veto in the opening round, which is in any other season, arguably a bad move.
Yeah, no, totally.
Very well praised.
I think, you know, Annie is another standout. I think Annie is hilarious, and I think she's really good socially. I think she's probably controlling a majority of the alliances in the game at this point.
I get tons of Chelsea vibes from her, man.
Definitely. Well, we had said that too in casting.
Yeah, I wasn't involved in their interview, but just the play style and the socialness and the way treating people like puppets, but like, ooh, I like everybody loves me. I don't know. Everything about it just screams Chelsea to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I would say one of the bigger differences, I think, is that Annie is really beloved by most of the people in this game, whereas Chelsea had quite a few people who really did not like her. And Chelsea was a little bit more trolly and evil, whereas Annie, I think, is just a serious game player, you know?
Yeah, although Chelsea, the people that did like her really liked her.
Oh, no, for sure.
Yeah, so I wouldn't understand that. But no, Annie, if you were to say star newbie, like social butterfly, I think you have to put her at the top.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of those. I think Winston has been fantastic. I freaking love Winston. He's not necessarily a brand new to gaming, but I think everything he says cracks me up. And I think he's super social with a lot of the people. As we find out, Annie has a little bit of a crush on Winston, or so she tells Haley, which may be my favorite development so far for the new players.
That's so
Their
funny.
conversations are very entertaining. Annie and Winston's very weird energy banter back and forth between them.
I love them so much. I could listen to both of them in their confessionals forever. They're so hilarious. Even like Winston's predictions of how each Big Brother personality is, even though like he has no interaction with us. I found that hilarious. I think another standout new player for me has been Kristen, someone we were kind of on the fence about, and Nofo fought hard for her. He saw something in her, and I think that she has delivered. I think it's shocking to me how aggressive Kristen has been, both personality-wise and gameplay. I think notably, a lot of the people had some pretty raunchy conversations, which we won't dox for their benefit, but even like Winston was grossed out, and Brittany had some epic confessionals about how raunchy they were getting, which was kind of shocking from Kristen, given she's like engaged and a pharmacist, you know.
No, she came in hot. She's kind of faded away a little bit like the last couple days. I don't know like what had come of that, but like I was not expecting her to be any episode OTT. Like,
yeah.
But I'm glad we have her. I mean, at this point, like, you shouldn't take anything I say about casting like overly seriously, because clearly all the people I want cut from the game end up being like feisty motherfuckers.
I think it's more of like, if somebody has a really strong feeling about someone, we should go with that, because usually there's a reason someone has like a gut feeling about someone else. Yeah, I think Kristen's great. I think Scotty has been fantastic. I think he's playing a little bit too hard in terms of like winning and showing his comp status. But other than that, I think Brittany has been okay. I'd like her to step up her private conversations more.
Yeah, she has good confessionals. She's definitely here. It's just she doesn't talk to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping that changes over time.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I've noticed with this cast is that there are a couple of them, Brittany included, that spend a lot of time in the group chat, like the house chat. And instead of going and having their one-on-one conversations and putting a lot of time and effort into those conversations, they spend their time, talking with everybody in the house chat. And I think that that's been her biggest downfall, is that she's not going to each person individually. She's just kind of being social in like a group setting. And that's kind of put her on the outs with a lot of people.
Yeah, and even then, when she is social in that group setting, she doesn't make as many comments as a lot of other people do. She's not the one bringing all the laughs necessarily, so she's not the one people see as the center of attention, social butterfly, which has also hurt her a little bit in this scenario.
Yeah, I would agree. Let's talk about someone who is a big social butterfly. I think Haley has been killing it socially. I see her online as much as Winston and Annie,
if not more.
Yeah, I mean, she's really gotten to know
late night conversationalist for sure.
She's gotten to know all the invaders really well. I think she has a pretty close bond with Reem, if I'm not mistaken.
You are not mistaken.
Yeah, I think she's someone who, over time, especially like learning from some of the invaders, I think will become a really big character this season.
She's like the only one that's like in both quote unquote big alliance, right?
I don't think she's in that other 5-person alliance.
Oh no, I thought she was like a 6th in that for some.
I think she's close with those people, but they didn't ever tell her about that chat.
I think her name gets thrown around a lot as like, when they're like, oh, we have our 5, and then I'm sure we could pull in Haley, where she's not a part of the alliance, but enough people feel that they're close to her that they think that they could get her in on a vote. I don't know. I like Haley a lot. I'm only worried about the fact that her closest allies seem to be the Invaders and Scotty, who are all playing very hard and are big personalities and, I think are really going to be seen as the driving forces of whatever happens. And I think that she can do well. I just don't want her to get overshadowed, I'm really hoping that she comes out swinging so that people see her as her own player and not just a tag along in that group of the Invaders and Scotty.
Definitely. And reading her confessionals too, which I personally love. I think her confessionals are phenomenal. It seems she's aware of that becoming a possibility. From what I get, she seems very aware of her position, and I think it's a very good position for right now. So we'll see what she continues to do. Hopefully good stuff.
That is the hard part for like having watched like however many newbie games. I do think the hard part for them is not the social part, but they'll get comfortable and they won't like try to stay ahead and flip things up on time. So she has to do that.
Let's talk about Matt a little bit. I really like Matt. He's another one that I think is a little bit of a sleeper here. I think, the new players, we have to remember this is only day 6 for them. I think some of them have taken to it immediately, and I think some will hopefully take their potential and come out. I think, some have shown more potential than others. I'd say I have like faith in some people and I have very little faith in other people. But Matt is one of the people I have a lot of faith in. I think he's done really well. I think he just needs to be a little bit more social.
Yeah, I've talked about this in like the Discord a lot. He's currently my winner pick, although those kind of people that I pick they're like the very cerebral, conscious of what they're doing people who usually get cut somewhat towards the end. But he's like the only one that I feel, besides maybe Courtney, is very consciously playing a floater game, but is still in a big alliance, not getting targeted at all, pretty deep under the radar, waiting for the long game, which is why consciously doing so, which is why I give him a lot of stock. The whole question with those people is, will they ever wake up from their sleeper agent, whatever, and just like start going all out? I have been really impressed with it.
Matt would have been my winner pick too in that draft pick. I think he's definitely still getting used to the chat for sure, but I think he's going to do a great job. I agree with all the points that Joaquin made.
I think, he has a great read on the situation, and I think he's smart enough to steer it in the right direction for his game. I just think he's a good strategist, and I hope eventually his social game will catch up to that.
He's not like the butterfly that like an Annie or whoever is, but he's still in one of the major alliances of the season so far. Someone who we haven't gotten to yet, who is probably, I guess, more quote unquote more social than him, but isn't in one, is Reagan.
Yeah, Reagan's been playing very well.
Mm-hmm. What I was going to say about Matt's game at the moment is he's less focused on being that social butterfly and more being connected to the current HOH, which in the first few weeks, as long as you're not the name that the HOH is going to put up, you're fine. So, well, in any case, if you're not the name the HOH is putting up, you're fine. But he definitely immediately goes to whoever's the current HOH, and he makes sure to talk up his conversations with them to the point where they share their strategies with him.
Yeah, he seems to really have taken a liking to JC's gameplay here. And I can see those two actually forming a pretty close bond going forward.
The only problem is JC is the only one so far. JC clocked Matt as a floater. And so he's like not, I don't think as trusting as he is towards like his inner circle, but
yeah. Well, we'll see. I definitely think Matt needs to step up a little bit. Floating works too, but I think like towards the end, he's going to have to step up a little bit. All right, let's talk about the man of the hour, Brett, who previously I think was in inactive territory, but apparently he had like some computer issue or something. And he's finally
our
back
Lord and Savior.
He's back on his
Brett.
laptop.
the king of Harvard.
Really brought the drama last night with JC. It was phenomenal to watch two new players become big characters. So basically JC wins HOH and he nominates Brett and Monet, and Brett comes through with the clutch immunity win. It was kind of a close fight between the two, very close fight towards the end of that challenge.
JC was cheating. We enabled it, but yeah, he had a cheat code on that challenge. But Brett was like pretty close without cheating.
As much shit as we talked about the guy, he did well at that challenge. He can count, that's for sure.
I would really hope that someone at Harvard Business School can count.
Yeah, he's never gonna live that down. But to be fair,
he leans into it.
Yeah, he totally he made the password to the group chat Harvard ! Oh man, that's so great.
I love that Winston doesn't believe that he goes there, and he's just like, "Can you believe Brett is saying this?" That's the joke.
I fucking love Winston. He's hilarious. Their dynamic is great. Yeah. So Brett wins. Brett wins the veto. Obviously takes himself off. I just love that he. Let me see if I can pull it up. What he told.
He also
JC.
made a final 3 alliance with Winston out telling him.
Yeah, it was with Reem. He went to Reem and was like, I want a final 3 of me, you, and Winston. And then Reem goes to Winston and goes, so Brett's saying he wants a final 3 of me, you, and him. And Winston's like, what? What are you talking about?
He says, I choose to remove myself from the block. Have fun pissing someone else off, JC. You deserve it. It's hilarious.
Love it.
I mean, you could see it playing out like you can't write that better. That was amazing. We love to see it.
I love Brett. I hope that over the next couple of days, now that he has a computer, he can hopefully find a little bit of footing in the game, so he's not just, the annoying troll trying to win immunity.
Well, don't you know he's formed a majority alliance?
Yeah. Oh, I did forget that.
I hope he's not like the next obvious boot. I hope he can at least make jury.
That's going to be tough. I'm not going to lie.
It's going to be very tough. But if he's counting, I don't know what the buyback is going to be, but he might be able to win that.
Yeah. Sorry, Gary. No.
I would willingly sacrifice Gary for Brett, honestly.
Yeah.
Just to see everybody be all pissed.
I think Gary would stand a better chance of going the distance than Brett would.
Oh,
but,
for sure.
It would be epic. All right. Well, let's talk about Flick, because we've not yet talked about Flick. Flick was fucking incredible as the pissed off invader. Like, we couldn't have asked him to be more over the top. And frankly, like, he would like apologize for how mean he was being, but legitimately it was hilarious. Like, everything was amazing to read.
No, if we voted on fan favorite right now, like, he would be it so far.
Yeah, I mean, totally fulfilling and surpassing the Tiffany role this season. I really hope Flick finds a way to like cockroach his way further in the game. I think he will. Like, I mean, he didn't go up this week, which was probably the most dangerous week for him. How is he doing socially now?
He's playing a bit of a floater game.
He hasn't said much, yeah.
Yeah, he saw that while he was on the block defense of just being very anti-Ream worked. And he's kind of just continuing to play up that for the time being without doing like a whole ton else. And just kind of talking sexual to people and like doing his usual shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's not coming out here and swinging for the fences for like some big move, which I'm curious to see. That'll either be endear the current house guests who are, oh, we should save him, but we have worries about his reliability. Actually, he's reliable, and this was just like a one-time thing, whatever. But you could also risk that people thinking, oh, he's actually way more strategic than he was letting on. Like, we need to get him out.
Yeah.
I think socially, I think Michelle's been doing a little bit better than Flick, but in terms of the house, I think Flick is currently safer than Michelle in terms of the invaders. If we had to pick an invader first to go, I still think that would be Michelle over everybody else. Moment.
It's weird. You would think under the radar and everything else would benefit Michelle, especially in Big Brother. But you gotta think, because they're such big targets, it's really, like if she were to go up against Reem or Courtney or Flick, I think she goes home just for people not feeling as close to her.
I think they feel like she's been a little less genuine. I know they've complained about her poor me shtick. I don't know. I think when you're coming in as an invader or somebody who's played a similar game, especially recently, coming in with kind of like oh no, you're not going to give me the chance to play. I have no angle to go towards. I'm just going to hope for the best and see what happens. Like, I don't think new people really like that.
Right. Yeah.
They're like, well, it's our first chance too. We don't want to go out early.
Right. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know, Reem and Michelle, man, after that blew up in their face, they're almost like pissed at the twist. And also, they feel like they don't have a chance. And it's a little bit like, where's the tiny violin? Because I'm sure Gary's somewhere fuming that they took him out of the game for that. And like, while I understand that, like this week, no invaders have been nominated so far and it's almost over. So
yeah, imagine if we had put them in an alias with new people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, come on, man. Like, yo, sure, it's not as easy as being an alias, but at the same time, you have a pretty big advantage over these guys, clearly.
Yeah, there was some people newer to the community were talking in Discord, oh, Reem and Michelle, obvious threats. They're not united. Like, they're just going to go down one by one. Danny and I know from Turk, the vets were down 12-6 and took out 7 newbies in a row. Returning players, regardless of like any stigma, always have a huge advantage.
Yeah.
I think especially because for Stranded, and I think this kind of ties in a little bit. Winston was talking about how sometimes he's like, oh, this cast, they're all so dumb. Like, I don't know where you guys found these people. I think one of the things about Stranded that's so different is that, a lot of the people that we're casting aren't hardcore orders. It's not the same people who play in all these different games. You get these people who come in from all different areas. Some of them have no gaming experience. Some of them have a ton. What really is the difference between Michelle, who's playing only her second game ever, and Winston, who's played a million games but is quote unquote a newbie?
Right.
I think that the vets are going to be able to come in and if people realize that they're useful to them, they should use them. It shouldn't just be, oh, I don't want to work with the vets. The vets are scary. They have too much of an advantage over me. I just think that that's a really boring way to look at this game, especially for the people who realize that they're not, in a majority or could successfully hide behind somebody like Reem, who very clearly is just a powerhouse no matter what she's doing.
Yeah, I think, I was talking to Nofo about this. Like, this was the perfect mixture of invaders. Like, I think that they're just fractured enough. And I think the opening twist, as cruel as it was, especially to Gary, I think it's brilliant because we get to see them a little bit fractured before they go in. And I think it highlighted them in a great way for the new players. I think it's balanced it a little bit. They still have a great advantage, and they'll still probably do really well. But I do think it's given the new players the opportunity to be like, okay, these are good players. They have a little bit of a target. It's not like a surprise that they're going to do well.
Here's the thing, too. Like, with the invaders coming in fractured, that's good for them. Because if they're coming in saying, we're going to target each other before we target any of you, they can say, okay, you can stick around for a little bit. Because I know that if you get power, you're not going after me. Right.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think this is a fun group. I've seen a lot of the newbies learn from the invaders, like how this game is played. I think it showed when JC and Brett were kind of going at it. Mm-hmm. Certainly, I think a little bit of the showmanship was ramped up when Flick came in, guns blazing. I think we've seen Reem and Michelle kind of, they were built up as these amazing gamers. Everybody's very excited about them. Even legendary players were talking about them. And certainly they're good. I think this is a little bit of a humbling experience for them. This is kind of like, okay, you were good, but you're not that good. not just yet. You still have to earn your stripes.
They don't feel that way, though. They feel like they're like kicking ass, though.
I know. And, I think we talked a little bit about this, too. They didn't get the opportunity to see some critique of their game because, Michelle won and Reem was like fan favorite and everything else. Or the Valentine Award, she was up there for fan favorite. That we didn't really highlight her negative gameplay traits. So she doesn't get the feedback of like what she should change. We were just standing how over the top and amazing she was, but she didn't get that reflection time, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of happened in Rematch though, because like people basically just used her to bulldoze like the first couple of votes in the game and then like threw her away, and she didn't seem to care about that. So I don't know if it's like a time thing or she like just doesn't get it or just likes playing that way. I don't know.
I think it's a little bit of like she can't help herself just yet. I think a few more games under her belt, she'll be able to control it a little bit better, like a Flick could, and turn it on and off when she needs to. I don't think she has that ability yet. I think she's always on, and that's where she's comfortable playing. I don't think she'll do badly. I think she's been playing badly. I still think she'll manage to eke her way through the game. I think this will be her opportunity to get some real feedback about how she should play going forward in other games. But certainly, like, this season is dramatically different if Reem's not in it.
Definitely. Reem brings a lot of that energy to everybody else.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this turns out. It's very early. Only had 2 new player boots. We're about to have 2 new player boots, and we've had Gary not even get to really enter the game. So we're going to see how this plays out. I think, there's a couple more fodder boots, I would say, that hopefully will get taken out early or will step up and become good players. But we'll see. I think overall it's a very good group. I think there's certainly the potential there. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play with invaders and how they learn from them or discard them. Any closing thoughts, previews for what's to come?
Brett is winning.
I think we're going to have a great season. I mean, I think we started out strong and it should keep getting better.
Yeah, once we move past like the couple of fodder boots, it should be good. There were like a couple of players we didn't touch on as much yet that I think I wanted to just in the first one. Going back to Reagan, I feel like we've barely talked about him, and he's still like a relatively big part of the season.
Yeah, we'll talk about him. What you got to say about our boy Reagan?
Well, he comes in with like a bunch of experience, which I think is one of the more experienced members of the cast, and he's like social, but like not in any of these big alliances, but like not quite floating, but at the same time being very smart about it. He's like I don't know what like total read to get on him.
Yeah.
Nobody else got anything to say about Reagan? Randy's gonna be pissed.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on and off for me. I want to see him online more. Really see how he formed some of these bonds. He mentioned himself in a recent confessional that he hasn't formed any like actual alliances or anything yet. So I think he knows he needs to step it up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think
I don't know. I don't know really where his allies are. I don't know who he thinks are his closest allies or who. I don't think anybody's thinking about nominating him, but I don't know that he has great connections.
Of course, I'm not watching like the group chats and everything else super closely. I just know of the people who have gotten involved with the Invaders and who have made like public moves. You know, that being JC, Brett, Haley, Annie, Winston. The rest of them, I'm kind of waiting to see how they end up in the game. I know that they certainly all have the potential, some of them more than others, but I think we're going to see them come into the focus pretty soon, especially when some of them start getting nominated or winning powers. I think that'll naturally happen. Well, I think that's going to do it for me. We're about to get into tonight's drama. We'll see who the new HOH is. I think we'll check in probably this weekend, see what has gone down so far, but I look forward to seeing what happens.
Whatever it is, it'll be exciting.
All right, Pooty out.